Hey guys, it's Julia, designer at The Quilted Cow, and today's tutorial is on the Nelson pillow accessory from the Back Home Pillow series. Before we begin, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Husqvarna Viking sewing machines, Creative Grids rulers, mats, and rotary cutters. Let's begin.
Quiet on set, we are rolling.
The Back Home Pillow series is one of my favorite series. It has interchangeable faces for all of your pillows. You can change it out by month or just pick your favorites. You can find the kits and patterns at our website at thequiltedcow.com or on our Facebook Lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Let's get started with the first step. The Back Home Pillow series is amazing because it has so many pieces. It's like doing a puzzle. It's very important as you're cutting that you label everything. You can do that with the magic pens that have the numbers and letters on them, or you can use a friction pen and just write what it is on the back of each piece. So the first step, once you have all of your pieces cut out and labeled, is to go ahead and draw your diagonal lines in all the specified locations. Then you'll go ahead and follow the directions and match everything up where it goes. You'll go ahead and put all of your flippy corners on with your fabrics right sides together, trim your seam allowance, flip them and press them, and then I just like to place everything where it belongs so I can see where I'm going as I go. I'm going to go ahead and start assembling. I'm going to start up here with the letters, and I'm going to start with the letter H. And I'm going to piece these 3 squares to make the center. Once I have my centerpiece done, I'm going to go ahead and piece the legs of my letter H to my background fabrics. I'm going to do that for both sides. Go ahead and do that step now. Once you have your sides and your center pressed, go ahead and piece these together to form your letter H. Go ahead and sew those now. Now that you have your letter H pressed, we're going to go ahead and continue on with the other letters. So the next letter will be the letter O. I'm going to do the same thing and piece the center first, and then I'll piece the outside sides. Now that you have your letter O assembled, we're going to go on and move to the letter N. I'm going to do the side, the matching little side pieces, and then I'll piece the top and the side and the background section. Let's go ahead and assemble our N. Now that I have my letter N sewn, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my letter K. So I'm going to sew my background and my side piece, and then I'm going to sew my 2 little legs. Let's go sew those. And now that I have my letter K assembled, I'm going to go ahead and assemble my entire word for the word honk. So I'm going to piece my H to my O and my N to my K. Now that I have my word honk completely assembled, I'm going to go ahead and add my background piece below this, my big letter A section. So go ahead and sew that now. Now that I have my honk assembled with my background piece, I'm going to go ahead and start forming the head and the neck. So to do that, I'm going to start with the head piece that has the little flippy corner or snowball corner, and I'm just going to assemble down the line. Go ahead and sew those down. Now that I have my neck and head assembled, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the face. Just make sure you're pressing between each step. So I'm going to do the face and the little background piece right below it. Go ahead and sew those. Now that I have my face and background piece, I'm going to go ahead and assemble this with the head and the neck that we just did. Go ahead and sew those now. Now that I have my head and my neck assembled together, I'm going to go ahead and add this chest piece on that has the 2 flippy or snowball corners. Let's go ahead and sew those together. Now that I have my head and neck attached to my chest, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside for just a moment while we attach our beak to our background piece. So for that, you'll need your beak piece and then your long background on the left. Let's go ahead and sew those. Now that I have the beak attached to the background, I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the rest of the goose that we just pieced. Now that I have my entire face assembled, I'm going to set this aside and start working on the body. Now the body is the easy part. You're going to take your 6 rectangles and just sew those together in little rows, and then sew your rows together. Let's go do that. Now that I have my body assembled, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the tail and piecing these pieces together. These are your 2 half square triangle pieces. So make sure you line up your seams and just go sew. Now that I have the rest of my tail and my back assembled, I'm going to move on to this bottom section. So what I'm going to do is piece my top 2 pieces together, and then we'll go from there. Now that I have the top pieces together, I'm simply going to take my teal and stitch it right below my green, essentially just making a little trio right in the corner. Let's go ahead and go sew. Now that I have my little trio assembled, I'm going to take my last piece that has a line drawn on it, and this is where you'll place it. So I'm going to line up my line with my corners and simply stitch on the line. So your back will look like this. Let's go sew on that line. Once you have these sewn together, we're going to turn it so we can see the back, and we're simply going to trim off these bottom corners. So let's go trim and press. And now your piece should look like this. The next step we're going to do is go ahead and sew our back piece to the top. Once we have the back and the tail attached to the tushies, we're going to go ahead and attach our background piece and our stomach. So let's go sew those on now. Now that I have the center of my goose assembled, I can go ahead and attach that to the background and the honk words. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch those now. Now that I have the center of my goose assembled, I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the face and the neck. So that'll be your next step. Now that I have the majority of my goose attached, I'm going to go ahead and attach the background piece, and then we'll start on the feet. Now that I have this top piece attached, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the feet. So to do that, we're simply going to attach the leg to the foot on both of those pieces. And then we'll attach this background section to the leg. So let's go ahead and sew that piece now. Now that I have these adorable little feet assembled, I'm going to go ahead and sew them to the bottom of my goose. Now that you have attached the feet, you have completed the entire top. The next step is to go ahead and add your interfacing, and we'll go ahead and press that on now. Now that I have the interfacing applied to the back of my block, I'm going to go ahead and place it face up on my table, and then I'm going to place the backing right side down on top of it. I'm going to add some clips to hold everything together. And then I'm simply going to go to my machine and sew all the way around. I am going to leave a turn opening, and this time I think I'm going to leave it on the top section or the side section, so that way it'll stay away from all the other seams. So let's go sew this now. Now that I have my backing attached, I'm going to go ahead and clip my corners and turn everything right side out. Now that I have my accessory turned right side out, I have pressed it very well and tucked my turn opening under. The next step is to go ahead and top stitch all the way around before we add our finger snaps. Now that I have my pillow accessory top stitched, it's time to mark the placement for my snaps. So I'm going to use my favorite creative Creative Grids ruler and just mark in a 1/2 inch from each top and side corners. Just make a little mark. And repeat that for all 4 corners. Now to poke your holes, you can use anything you like. A precision seam ripper, a regular seam ripper. We even have a hole punch that will do this for you. I'm just going to use this seam ripper and simply place it right on the mark I made. Cut just a few little threads of fabric, and then it'll be ready for my snap. Now for the top part, we're going to be using the stud snap. So I'll put my cap on the front and poke it all the way through, and then attach my stud snap to the back. and then it's just pressing until you hear it click. Repeat that for your other top corner with your stud snap. Now for the bottom of my pillow accessory, that's where we'll add the socket snap or the female snap. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same steps. Cap on the front. And then I'm going to attach my socket snap to the back. Repeat that for your final corner. And that is how you make the Nelson back home pillow accessory. You can find this kit on our website at thequiltedcow.com or on our Facebook Lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You can also find the back home pillow series in its entirety on our website. Please like and subscribe for more tutorials, and thanks for watching.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, Rulers, Rotary Cutters, and Mats. Thanks for watching.